Hello, I'm Dave Mowitz, and welcome to Successful Farming. On today's program, I watch a Case IH 220 Magnum with under 300 hours sell at auction. Imagine a 4-year-old tractor that has run less than 300 hours total. Then we feature a beautifully restored John Deere R diesel on Aegis Iron. The engine man reveals secrets of using a voltmeter. And after these brief messages, Lori Bedard reports on how implementing advanced technology can have a huge impact on your operation. So please stay tuned.
In a time when every dollar counts, Lee Berry needs to ensure each input he purchases is used wisely to optimize yield potential. Achieving that means implementing technology that gives the crop the right source of nutrients at the right rate and right time in the right place.
We're trying to reduce everything that get by with the least amount and raise the bushels that we need. Just in time, the timing is a big important part. We don't want to put anything at risk. We can't afford to put nitrogen at risk and have a rain wash it away. We just need to make several applications and not put anything at risk.
This day and age, with commodity prices as low as they are, it's really about return on investment and optimizing the bushels per acre that they're getting, right? We're going kind of into from this, more science-based like era in agriculture, I think, to more like mathematical, like really crunching the numbers and things and trying to figure out, combining science and math and trying to be more proactive managers in that way rather than reactive.
Yet, implementing a variety of ag tech tools can be a daunting task that not only requires some trial and error, but a lot of patience.
It is a trial and error process, and anybody that knows Lee, he's one of those that does not like to sit still. It's if the more he can work, the happier he is, but on the flip side of it, he has an obscene amount of patience as far as knowing that technology, there's going to be growing pains. He knows that if you want to grow an operation, if you want to grow a business, technology has to be part of it, change has to be part of it, but with that is also going to be trial and error. There's going to be failures and there's going to be successes, and if that's, to me, the only failure is if you don't enjoy your successes and you don't learn from your failures, that's the only failure that there is.
To track crop progress and make informed input decisions throughout the season in both corn and soybeans, Lee is working closely with a team of experts to deploy a variety of ag tech tools.
So we just started with the R7 tool. Where you're standing right now in this dry corner was one of the first things that we changed was using the R7 tool, the profitability maps, and taking one of the other tech tools they use is the My John Deere Operations Center, and taking their yield maps from the previous corn year and taking those yields and the dry corners, taking what was yielded in those corners and virtually laying it over the in-season imagery in the R7 tool or the yield potential maps. They mirrored each other almost identically, so I was able, before I'd even set foot on their ground or felt the dirt, I got to virtually analyze their fields and help make them decisions before we went into the first season, saying that by taking out these corners, we found that you ultimately decreased your cost of production and you were within the acres then that you were given was automatically increasing your yield if you would have done it the year before when it was corn, and therefore increasing ROI. So before we went into the first year, there was already a decision made to take out these corners, and they went into alfalfa to be baled for their cattle.
The nutrient management part is, doing the forecasting tool and running the ROIs. We can look at it and say that it's deficient on K, for example, and run it through the scenario and put our costs in there and what we're selling for, and really figure out if it gives you an ROI. If it doesn't, we move on. If it does, then we need to look drastically at it. The last year after brown silk, we were still monitoring to see if there was anything that we could do that would improve our yield. Sunday morning, I was running a scenario and it called for an extra 4 gallons of nitrogen, and it gave us a 12 bushel response after brown silk. I called Kelsey, I said, can this be right? She said, I think it can be. Maybe we should try it. And we did, and we got better test weights and improved our yield. So that's kind of our one point where we really trusted the tool. We were used to looking at a post brown silk application, but it was so little for a nice return, so we did it.
Last year we had spread a field with a strip till blend. So a strip till blend, we usually account for higher efficiency, so roughly about 70% efficiency. We were somewhat expecting to have some sort of a shortage in that field, and that's exactly what happened. We caught it early that there was a potassium deficiency, and then and so I called Lee and said, this is the deal. There is an option to do melted potash with your irrigation through fertigation, which again opens a lot of opportunities with the fertigation to get product down. And so we did that, and we didn't have to put a whole lot on, and we saw the tissue tests and the soil samples react within the first week. And it shocked both of us that, wow, there's something to this. If we didn't have to put very much on, the efficiency factor must be extremely high with that form and when we applied it. And so that was kind of our last year's somewhat of an aha moment that we thought, okay, then going into this next year, we made the plan that we were going to cut our upfront dry potassium and continue our tissue testing plan. And sure enough, we caught a couple of the fields did run a little short on potassium. We applied and it reacted, and we're finding out that we're able to get a return on investment doing that. We're decreasing our cost of production, and last year that field that was short that we applied that on was tied with our second highest yielding field.
At the end of the day, I think dry land or irrigated, the trend is definitely splitting up your application. And it's not just about making like dollars. It makes sense, right? Because you're being more sustainable that way too, and hopefully giving that plant what it needs when it needs it, and not just front loading all of it and hoping it's still there when your crop needs it. When you're at tassel corn and at this time of the season, a lot of that nitrogen might be gone. So that's something you're trying to really see, and that's why we evolved or started making or working on field forecasting tool several years ago, because we knew we had something with our tissue samples about diagnosing the problems in season before it becomes a bigger problem for you, and making those corrections. And then field forecasting tool is hopefully just adding that other piece in that puzzle to help you visualize and plan better as a grower.
With the tissue testing and the different methods of getting it down, whether through the sprayer or through the irrigator, we find out what the plant needs and respond accordingly instead of waiting to see what's going to happen. We try to be in front of everything.
Tools like this, I mean, when it costs only a little over a bushel of corn and a half a bushel of beans, it was a wonderful guideline to take us through the season. And there's nothing better than boots on the ground and myself in the field or digging roots. I mean, there's no tool that can dig a set of roots or tear a plant apart, but it's definitely a nice guideline or a dashboard that you can go and see a quick snapshot of how things are doing, and you can target those fields.
This year it's been, we've implemented it more and more intensely, and believe, you got to believe in the feedback that it's given you, and it's not, I guess, the way that my grandfather farmed is year to year. We plant the same varieties because they did well for us in the past. We did the same things over and over. Now we adapt to what the conditions are giving us and what we can produce.
As farmers like Lee Berry continue to work toward increasing their farm's efficiency and productivity, precision farming tools are making traditional farming practices more efficient and predictable. The challenge going forward would not only be to ensure farmers can easily plow through the maze of technologies at their disposal to best meet their goals, but to also help them effectively manage data to make productive decisions.
Hello friends, Ray Bohacs here, Successful Farming Engine Man, and welcome to the segment This is going to be a little bit different than I normally do because it's going to be an eclectic segment about electronics and electricity. Everything on the farm today and everything in the world is running on electricity. And the thing is that we need to know some basic simple tests on how to confirm whether we have voltage, whether a switch is good, whether a battery is good, and also how to fix a wire. Because lots of times on the farm a wire breaks. So I'm going to jump around to a few different things here. First of all, I'm sure everyone has a voltmeter. It could be analog or it could be digital. So if you want to check to see whether a switch is good, you would put your meter on the ohms setting, the lowest ohm setting. A meter has resolution like a pressure gauge does. So if it's 200 ohms, it means it's between 0 and 200. If it's 2000 ohm scale, it's 0 to 2000. And what you would basically do is you would take the switch and you would connect your leads. It has to be unpowered to use an ohm meter, and then you would take the switch and you would put the leads on, and when you have continuity, it'll be 0 or near 0 resistance, and when the switch is open, it'll be infinity. So if you want to determine whether a switch on something is good or bad, it's very simple. 2-second check with an ohm meter. It'll take you longer to actually unplug the wires than to do it. Same thing is with a bulb. Lots of times the filament may be broken in the bulb and you cannot see it. You could very simply check whether the bulb is good by going with your ohm meter and going from the center terminal to one of the pins. If it has a resistance, 2 ohms, 3 ohms, the bulb is good and your problem is elsewhere. And if it's open, then the bulb is burned out. Same thing with a fuse. And you could also use your ohm meter, or voltmeter ohm, to check your battery. Any type of battery. Put the positive lead, the red lead on the positive terminal, the negative lead on the black terminal, and check the voltage. If you want to check the charging circuit on something, check your voltage at rest, 12 point something volts, and then also start the engine, and you should have an output of around 14 volts. A simple voltmeter could give you a lot of basic data very, very quickly, and you don't need to guess. The worst thing with electronics is guessing. Now, the other thing is that if you ever have to fix a wire on any piece of equipment, always try to use shrink tubing. Cut the shrink tubing. There's different sizes for the appropriate wire gauge. Cut the shrink tubing, slide it onto the wire, solder your wire, and then heat this up, and it'll shrink and give an airtight and moisture-tight seal. And this tip is what is worth the whole segment. Most people, when they use electrical tape, they tear it. When you tear electrical tape, it doesn't seal well. It doesn't stick, and it becomes elongated and moisture gets in. So whenever you're using electrical tape, always cut it and not tear it. You have a blessed day, and I hope these tips helped you from the Firestone Farm Shop.
Join me at auction to watch a late model Case IH 220 with less than 300 hours sell after these brief messages. Hey, welcome to Steel Deals. Now, what we have here is a 4-year-old Magnum 220 that has, now get this, just 277 hours on its tach. That makes it like brand new. Imagine 277 hours. Now, this tractor would be a mid-sized farmer's dream come true if they're looking to upgrade horsepower. Besides having such low hours, this tractor comes with front axle suspension, cab suspension, 870 R38 rear tires, a deluxe cab, LED lights, and 5 hydraulic outlets. Wow, this would make someone a dandy planter tractor, especially a mid-sized farm. Now, if I were looking to invest in horsepower like this, the internet tells me to consider putting up from $117,000 to $139,000. Low price was for a similar tractor that sold at auction recently, and the high price was for a Magnum 220 sitting on a dealer's lot. Either tractor had about 350 hours. Did I mention this tractor has just 277 hours? Now, before this tractor sells, let's go talk to Luke Sullivan of Sullivan Auctioneers to get an estimate of its price. We're speaking with Luke Sullivan of Sullivan Auctioneers, and I spied that Case IH 220 Magnum. Does it really only have 277 hours?
Yeah, that's correct, Dave.
Did its owner, I take it he was getting close to retirement and he just parked it in the machine shed a lot?
Yeah, I think so. That's only 50 or 60 hours a year, so that's about a low hours of tractors you're going to find.
Luke, that tractor is at the low end of what we call high horsepower front wheel drives. But still, there's a lot of mid-sized farms looking for something like the 220.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's big enough that you could plant with it and you could pull some smaller tillage tools, but also small enough that you could pull wagons or, do something such as pulling a batwing mower with it as well. So it'd be a pretty versatile tractor to have in about any farming operation.
So I've got to ask, a low-hour tractor like that, how does that affect its value? Obviously, I could guess.
Sure.
It's going to have a great price floor on it.
Kind of a unique find. You don't see a tractor like that every day with that age range, with that low of hours. But if somebody felt more comfortable, having a tractor that had been around for a couple of years and worked some of the kinks out of it, but you're talking only a couple hundred hours, it's a kind of a neat tractor to find.
The sale's taking place before planting, before any tillage takes place. Will that buoy the price on a tractor like that, plus the low hours on top of it?
Sure. Oh, I think so. When you can buy an item and take it home and start using it right away, that certainly adds some value when you don't have to sit on it for a year or half a year before you can put it into use.
So for the rest of the year, 2019 from here on out, for that size tractor, that's probably going to be the market high on a tractor.
I think so. Yeah, you're going to be able to put it into use for a whole farming season, so that's certainly a plus.
So I'm going to put you on the spot because it's going to be fun to watch that tractor sell. You have any guesses?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one to put a price on just because of the low hours that it has and kind of a unique setup with the wide tires on it. But we're thinking somewhere in the 100 to 120,000 range on it.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. I would say that's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Well, let's go watch that Magnum 220 sell.
13 and a 14 pound dollar, 114,000. 13 and a 14 and 14 pound dollar, 114,000. 115,000. 115 pound dollar, 15 was Sharpers started their tractor. Now 116,000. Now 116 internet. 115 and a 16,000. 115, 16 pound dollar, 116,000. 115 and a 116 pound dollar, 115 and a 116,000. 115, 16, 115 and a 16 pound dollar, do through. 117 and 117 and 117 and 117 and 117,000 and 118,000. 118, we're coming from my sellers here. 118,000. 117 and 18 and 118 pound dollar, 118,000. I'm about 17, 118, 118, 19, 119, 119 pound dollar, 19,000. I'm about 19, and I'm on 19, 20, 120 pound dollar. Boys, if you need a tractor that size, it's one worth the candy. 119, 120, 120,000. Served on site, 119,000.
When the bidding dust settled on our 220 Magnum, it sold for $119,000. That price, I contend, probably represents the market high on such tractors for this year. What makes me so certain? Well, that tractor sold just before planting, when demand for tillage tractors like that is high. The other factors that come into play here is the fact that inventories of used tractors like this are much lower than they were just 2 to 4 years ago. If you want a comparison of today's final bid to what similar tractors are selling for on dealers' lots, I went and found 8 220 Magnums with asking prices ranging from $119,000 up to $149,000. Doing such research is critical these days as the marketplace for lower hour and late model machinery is in flux. And we now offer you the opportunity to get appraisals from the authority on equipment prices, which is Iron Solutions. Used by banks, manufacturers, and dealers from across North America, Iron Solutions gathers actual dealer sales, auction purchases, and wholesale transactions on equipment built in the past 20 years. Iron Solutions is the place dealers go to set trade-in, offers, or sale prices. Now, to get your 2 free appraisals each month, go to agriculture.com/whatsitworth. For more information about Sullivan Auction, go to their website at sullivanauctioneers.com. I'll see you again next week on another Steel Deals Report. After these brief messages, we visit with Nick Bancroft about the restoration of his John Deere R Diesel. So please stay tuned. Our Aegis Iron feature tractor this week is a John Deere R Diesel owned by Nick Bancroft of St. John, Michigan. Yep. And this was not a tractor you found a lot up in Michigan.
No, these were used a lot out west in kind of wheatland areas.
Nick, this tractor is historic for John Deere because it was the first
Diesel.
Yeah, and they had been thinking about that for quite a while, but they thought, we need to get into this business, right?
And they did, and they spent a lot of time developing this tractor.
Now, this tractor really upped the power game, didn't it? Because it was a torquey engine.
It was. Believe it or not, it's less than 40 horsepower.
Seriously?
Seriously. But all the rotating weight allowed it to run and run and run and run.
You were talking about when you restored this, you had a fun job.
The crankshaft weighs 255 pounds, and the only way to get it out was by hand.
Oh my gosh. It's got just not you alone, right?
I had another guy, and we mumbled a lot of things while we took it out.
Have any problems outside of that 250-pound crank?
Finding parts was a challenge.
What in particular was the problem? Was it the fuel pump? Or?
We had some broken gears.
Oh.
The heads are known for cracking, so finding a good head was very difficult.
Goodness, where did you find a head?
A guy up in Wisconsin.
You have a few other tractors in your collection.
I do.
Yeah.
A couple dozen or so.
What was the attraction?
Just like doing something mechanical. Good hobby.
Yeah.
Fun to do.
And you had a great mentor, didn't you?
Yeah, we had a guy named Neil Hall. He worked in our shop, had previously worked for John Deere at a dealer, and he had a passion for it and was awful helpful getting started.
Yeah. So now you've just stopped collecting, right? You have so many tractors, you're not going to...
Well, I have a shop and we do restorations for customers.
I had to ask, you know.
Yeah, Chris George is my mechanic. He worked hard on this tractor, and we just keep putting them out.
And you also have children too, you have 3 boys, and the oldest of which is
10.
Yeah, so he's going to be wanting to get into tractors too.
Yep, I've got him working on lawn and garden tractors to home. So.
Well, you seem like an intelligent guy, so I got to ask you this question because we were having a hard time figuring out what the answer is. What is the quotient of tractors you can buy for each boy to add to your collection?
It has to be 20 or 30, I think.
Oh, it is. Now for girls, is it 40 and 50 then?
That's right. You're thinking the right way.
So here's the deal, guys. We're taking a poll. We need to have your input on how many tractors can you collect, both for your children as well as grandchildren. You can contact me at the Successful Farming Show. I'll see you again next week on another Aegis Iron Feature Tractor of the Week. Please join us next week for another outstanding show. Natalina Sense reports on the alarming deterioration of rural infrastructure. The Shark Farmer, Rob Sharkey, is back with his unique view of agriculture. I head to an auction in Illinois to track the sale of Tempe hopper-bottom trailers, and we reveal the creative genius of Don Landall and how a 4-H project launched his international company, Landall Manufacturing. See you next week right here on Successful Farming. Hi, I'm Dave Mowitz. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit subscribe right here if you haven't already, and click that little bell right here to be notified when we post a new video. And click here to see more great episodes from Successful Farming Television.